Hello and welcome to Hot Indonesia, where great minds come together. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Here is this week's HI Hotlist. Football fever. What protocols will be in place when Indonesia's professional league resumes play? We talk with executive Putra Kartono. Public perception. A massive fire destroys the Attorney General's offices during high-profile corruption investigations. Accident or arson? And Tattoo You. It's haram in Islam, but why skin art is popular here. Here now, my co-hosts each and every week, Sandrina Malakiano, Deputy CEO of Polmark Indonesia from her home in South Tangerang, and Sandiaga Uno, you know him, former Vice Governor of Jakarta from his home in South Jakarta. Here is hot topic number one, football fever. Leagues in Italy, England, and others have resumed play, and Indonesia's professional players will kick off again in October. Liga 1 teams stopped competition in March after 3 weeks of games because of the coronavirus pandemic. Executives of the Indonesian Football Association, or PSSI, say strict health protocol will be followed, including no spectators at any games. Charisma Putra Kartono is the business intelligence manager of the top-level club Persib, based in Bandung. Putra, thank you for your time. Let me ask you first, most important question. Besides no spectators, what other health guidelines will the league follow when play resumes?
Thank you, Dalton, for the chance. So we have agreed on a managers meeting earlier that the league will require the clubs to give the details of the PCR and swab tests 2 weeks prior to the league resumes, and every 2 weeks since the league resumes, the PCR test and the swab test will be conducted again, and the result should be posted to the league operator and the federation. And if there is any indication any players is infected by the virus, then health protocol of self-isolation will be put in place for the players and the teams.
You know, not having spectators, as in other countries, must have been a difficult decision to make because fans want to attend and the clubs want the revenue. How difficult was it for Indonesia to make this decision?
It was actually relatively quite back and forth discussion between the clubs and the operator and the federation, because as you said, some of the clubs still depends heavily on the revenue tickets, but in the current era of football, I think we have shifted into a different kind of revenue streams. We are now relying on the commercial rights of broadcasting and also from the club sponsorships revenue as well. So in one way, it affects us, but in another way, from industrial perspective, we still need to move on if we want to keep existing in this new era of pandemic.
Yeah, and you have to satisfy your fans. Okay, Sandy, your question for Putra.
Pak Putra, thank you for joining. I have, football has already become like an industry, and there are fans, also enterprises being involved. I think jobs are also being at risk when the league stops operations. But I guess this is a very, very good sign that the league is going to recommence. What sort of because we saw how NBA was very putting a very strict protocol in the beginning, and they are now already in the play-ins. But Major League Baseball in the US tried to reopen and now shut again because of the new cases involving players. So other than the stuff that you already mentioned, what are additional protocols so that players' health and safety are going to be prioritized?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the main principal thing that we do differently at this season is all teams around Indonesia will be centralized at Java only. So all the teams outside Java, like Borneo FC or Bali United, PSM Makassar, they all switch their home base from their home ground into Java. Like for example, Persipura Jayapura has decided that they will put their home base for the rest of the season at Malang, and we will only concentrate our activity in Java, and the transportation between each cities will only be conducted through land transportation. So we are not going to use air transportation at all to minimize the risk of exposure to the virus. So those are other additional things that we are doing operationally to ensure everyone is in the safest place possible.
I see. So similar to the NBA bubble that Sandy mentioned, everybody coming to one place. So that's a smart thing. Sandrina, your question?
Yeah, Paputra, of course, everybody can't wait for the matches to begin again in the near future. And the most important factor in a soccer match is, of course, the players. And of course, with the pandemic already ongoing for months and months and no matches have taken place, their income, their monthly earnings, of course, have been affected badly. And maybe not as bad for Bali United that has just, they went public, they're a public company, but none other clubs have gone public. So in terms of the players, I would like to know how they are in terms of financial earnings, because they don't get the money they get when they appear every match. They don't get the bonuses, and I'm sure the clubs alone, with you mentioned there are no ticket sales. How are they dealing with this?
Yes, well, of course, as how our football federation explained it, we are facing an extraordinary stage. And in this extraordinary stage, the Football Federation themselves has introduced a policy that clubs and players could renegotiate our salaries to players. And it is a policy that is implemented equally across the clubs. So at the moment, we are renegotiating with the players to pay only 50% of their intended initial salary. And of course, it impacts the players as well. But we have built communication and gained mutual understanding that this is an extraordinary kind of thing, and things will return back to normal once we get better in terms of the pandemic situation, and we could start a new season with a whole different kind of situation later on next year.
Yeah, Putra, let me ask you this. I'm sure you discussed this, or I hope you have. If the season restarts and there are cases of infections among players, hopefully not, is the league prepared to shut down again?
Well, it's a risk we must prepare to take, actually, and we have already prepared that kind of mitigation in our scenario planning.
Okay, that's good to hear. Now let's get a little more about the sport. 18 clubs in the top league, Liga 1. Bali United, which I think would be Sandrina's favorite club, is the defending champion. When play ended in March, the leader in the standings was Club Persib, your club, Putra. Who's going to win it all? And then I want to ask Sandy who his favorite team is. I know I'm going to have a good answer there, but is Persib in good position to win it all again?
Well, we are very optimistic that this could be our year. And from the team and coach's perspective as well, we believe our potential or our chance to win is actually quite big this year.
Sandy, who's your favorite team, or are you going to have to be very diplomatic?
Well, when I was running the city hall in Jakarta, definitely Persija. But now that I am on a national front, I have to be nice to every single club because they have millions of fans. And I think Persib has been playing very well. But football is football. We always say that the ball is round, so you don't know how the final outcome would be. My good luck to Pa Putra, and may the best team wins.
Putra Kartono, Persib in Bandung. Thank you very much for that information, important information, and for your time this day. Hot Indonesia will continue shortly with public perception. Was this fire set deliberately to destroy corruption cases? You're watching Hot Indonesia with Sandrina, Sandy, and me. Here's hot topic number 2. public perception. It was a massive fire in South Jakarta on August 22nd that destroyed much of the Attorney General's offices. Almost immediately, social media speculation began on the high-profile corruption cases being handled by prosecutors there, including some involving convicted tycoon Joko Chandra. Officials are looking into possible arson, but say records of these cases were stored in other buildings. Now, Sandy and Sanjina, the reason for the public speculation is that, of course, as you know, it's happened before. Offices of government investigators burned in 1997 and 2000, and in those fires, important documents were lost. Sanjina, is it a fair public reaction this time?
I would like to underline the fact that this perception, that the minute they saw the news on TV, I got similar reactions here and there. Everybody, the first thing that comes to mind is, oh my God, what about the case files? Are they gonna get burned? So the first thing they think about is the possibility of case files being burned or disappearing. But then this shows the standard of trust, which is very low, that the public has for our legal or justice system and the trust in the government. Fortunately, we got assurance that none of the files were destroyed. But then again, Dalton, if we look back to human rights activist murder case Munir, no offices were put ablaze or set on fire just for his files to disappear, right?
Very true.
It just disappeared.
Yeah. Doesn't take a fire. Now, I hope, though, it's found that the cause was electrical or something other than arson, because, Sandy, otherwise it means criminals feel like they can do anything in something like this, right?
The head of fire department used to report to me when I was at the city hall working for the Jakarta government. And actually, speculations not only is about the case of the evidence, like the documents and so on and so forth, but also people are sending signals to the authorities that, please, I'm sending, it's almost like a field threat. But if you go back to the real nitty-gritty, actually source of a fire is the head of the fire department, the previous one was telling me it's very easy to determine. Almost like if it's an arson, there's always a signature that they would leave in place, because it's like if it's an arson, they would have to trigger the fire. And burn patterns, this is very interesting, burn patterns and heat shadows would leave a telltale signs that point the source of the fire. And the most common causes of building fires are actually very simple, like smoking or electrical and wiring problems. So we need to wait for the investigations. Let's not speculate further, but the people, the public are really on top of this. They are watching, and guys, we need to make sure that we get to the bottom of it. Make sure that you send a very clear signals that investigations have revealed ABC, and transparencies and full disclosures will have to featured here in the investigation.
Yeah, one more thing also, Dalton. It's the condition of our buildings, the water sprinklers and the maintenance of buildings is also usually in government offices or buildings are pretty low in standard of maintenance.
Yeah, I wonder if they had water sprinklers, but I would hope they had. Now, let's talk about other possible impact of this. Now, if paper documents were still being used, and I believe they are in investigations, they got to catch up with technology. Officials must scan and keep stored in cloud files, or at least some hard drives elsewhere, and I hope this pushes government to do that, right?
Yeah, and this is actually part of how you accelerate the digitizations of all the files, and making sure that the legal system would allow presenting the case using a PDF or a digital file. Secondly, I want to ask about, I guess, the government and all the related stakeholders must ensure that routine building inspections will have to be done, in particular for government buildings, because they're supposed to be making the laws and making the rules, but they are the ones who are always at risk of being, destroyed by fires.
Okay, one quick topic to wrap this segment up. The larger issue of this whole thing is corruption. And, how are you guys feeling about the larger issue, about progress in the country's anti-corruption fight? A couple quick answers. First, Sandy.
Well, it's the public perception is now that we're taking our eyes off the ball. So this is a wake-up call for us to continue to present a clear path for clean government with clean governance, and making sure that we have a very strict anti-corruption protocol, not only the health protocol, but post-COVID-19, we also need to have the anti-corruption protocol deployed in every level of government.
Okay, Sandrina, you feeling better about anti-corruption efforts or not?
No, especially now that everybody's focusing on the pandemic. We need the government's commitment in dealing with this issue, the eradication of corruption, and also giving the independence to those who are handling the cases to ensure that the implementation of law is a guarantee, is a must, and that all the cases are being taken seriously. So if not, then the people's trust will just continue to decrease.
Okay, and you're not feeling it. Okay, more Hot Indo is ahead. Tattoo You. Despite religious restrictions, Indonesians, including this former minister, love their skin art. You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Here's hot topic number 3, Tattoo You. It was on this 103-year-old's bucket list in the U.S. Dorothy Pollock decided she wanted a frog on her arm, and she got it in June. Tattoos are forbidden in this country's majority religion, but that doesn't stop people from getting their favorite skin art, including former Fisheries Minister Suzy Pujiastuti. She has, you guys know, at least one big one colorful one on her leg. I don't know where else. So let's start this segment with the 64 rupiah question. Sandy, where is your tattoo located?
I have no tattoo. I'm completely going to reveal that, although the thought crossed my mind a few times, but please, my daughters, please don't listen to this. But I think Islam has been very, very clear on this. Only temporary tattoos are allowed. So I've tried temporary tattoos that stays for about maybe 3-4 days, and the temporary tattoos is actually not permanently changing a person's body, which is part of, although there are some debate about it. But I was running a triathlon, and when you're doing a triathlon, you need to tattoo the numbers of your race numbers onto your, because when you swim, they need to see your arms with your race numbers, and we tattooed it here on near your top of your shoulder. So I guess
you don't have one. You're saying, okay.
I don't have one.
We can trust you on this.
I'm not. I'm not looking to have one anytime soon.
Oh, you never know, Sandy. You never know. Okay, Sandrina, where's your tattoo?
Not nowhere. I was not born a Muslim, but I never had the desire to have any tattoos, neither temporary nor permanent. I had those bubblegum cover tattoos when I was a kid, though, for a day or two. The one you put on with water. No, but I've got nothing against those who do have tattoos, because sometimes if you do it properly, it does look cool. And In Indonesia, say in Borneo, in Kalimantan, there's this suku Dayak, the native there. They have this as part of their heritage, as their part of their culture, to distinct their social status, also to commemorate a certain win or victory. So it's actually also part of the Indonesian culture.
Yeah, Indonesia, especially South Pacific, different parts of Polynesia. You know, you can find tattoo parlors despite the religious restrictions in Jakarta. But more, as Sandrina knows, in Hindu Bali. You know, I often thought of getting one, and I still might. And I'm curious. I'm going to ask you guys privately, if you got one, what would you put on your body? But here's just advice to leave this topic from friends who have gotten tattoos. Put them in discreet places and no lovers' names.
You know, Dalton, there's also a tattoo removal
Procedure
place that is started by a good friend of mine, and it's doing very well.
Yeah, okay, that's a valuable thing after you break up. Feedback time now. We want to hear from you from throughout the world and, of course, here in Indonesia. Catherine in Jakarta posted this on Facebook following our discussion on preventing suicides. Yes, talk will help, but the human body is a series of chemical and hormonal reactions too. Understood, Catherine. And Adli said this on YouTube in reaction to the man who did nothing on camera for 2 hours and got 3 million views. Indonesians are very creative and confident. I love Indonesia, and so do we. Here's how to contact us with your feedback. Email at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com, or please comment through our Hot Indonesia or Indonesia Channel Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Final words, Miss Sandrina.
Yeah, I was in Bali recently, and it's good to see that some domestic tourists are coming to the island, making use of the time and special promotions given by hotels and travel business. But the governor of Bali has issued just a few days ago that Bali will remain closed for foreign tourists until the end of the year, as so also other tourist destination areas in Indonesia. So things will continue to be tough, especially those who are working in the tourism business, also people around us. So I think it's always a good time to look around us and see what we can do to support those who are less fortunate.
Okay, final word, Sandy.
Earlier in the week, we heard the report that the government have distributed or absorbed close to 25% of the COVID-19 budget. Although this is a good sign, but clearly it's not enough. We need to accelerate, because Q3, whereby we are going to see whether we are in technical recessions, we need to ensure that we send a good signal that things are much better than Q2. So people in the government, please accelerate the executions of the government program to help the people. Because if we are having a good sign for Q3, optimism will come back, and hopefully we could basically have a much better economic output.
Okay, and my final words, kind of piggybacking onto what Sandrina said. You know, I was also in Bali recently, and I saw how devastated that island's hospitality industry is. The reopening to Indonesia or international travelers had hoped to restore jobs and revenue, but that's not going to happen. You know, why not a Bali exception? Why not a Bali exception with tighter entry procedures there? Because while domestic visitors are still allowed, they will in no way make up for what's being lost. So we've got to help the largest foreign revenue owner in this country, or the end of the year is going to be even more of a disaster. But anyway, that's Hot Indonesia for this week. For Sandrina Malakiano and Santiago Uno, I'm Dalton Tanonaka. Please join us again next time.